Hey guys, Man back for another deck profile, and as you can see, we are finally actually looking at Mirage. Surprisingly, I never looked at this deck when it first came out, because I was honestly more focused on other blue decks like Garuru, and honestly, I think mainly it was Garuru, but when it was released, oh wait, no, actually no, that was also another issue is that BT11 specifically was dominated by Black War Greymon X, so the focus was mainly on that. So, yeah, that was where I was mainly focused. And of course, as you guys know, I do really like security controls, so I was focusing on those. And then to a latter extent, Crossheart. But yeah, we never really looked at this deck, especially with its initial release, because it didn't really like it made a splash, but it wasn't really that great until we started getting mulligans and we finally got the trainings. That was recently in like the last few formats. This deck has been sticking around for like the longest time and just consistently topping because it's basically the most consistent and strong blue deck that has stuck around aside from Garuru, which is not really doing so well right now. But surprisingly, Mirage in this current format is still really good and has actually won several events. So I wanted to finally after all this time, I'm like, okay, let's actually look at it and see like basically how this deck is doing it. And after looking through about like 30 to 40 different deck profiles because I wanted to get an exact consensus on every card because with this deck I noticed that it's a blue deck is very consistent, but the thing is that you still need the perfect ratios to basically win with a blue deck because most of the time it's all about unsuspending, jamming, and just removing sources. And this deck has basically every single one of those effects. And basically, I would say it's like this deck feels like playing Garuru at full power. Like it's like kind of like playing the BT9 version when it was dominant, combined with like a bit of the new support because with the new support, Garuru got a way to basically gain a lot of memory, but this deck was already basically doing it at the same time, but I just never noticed because the main focus was on Garuru for me for a while. Um, but yeah, just looking at this deck now, like the consensus on it is very clear cut, which is really crazy because almost every version of it I saw basically ran the almost exact build, aside from slight changes, maybe adding in a level 7 or maybe adding in a certain rookie or just not playing one rookie. But yeah, this deck is actually really insane after, mainly testing it a bit. It's actually very strong. It has a lot of really good removal. Obviously, it loses to certain decks that run a lot of security bombs, like let's say security control. But even then, it can actually take a game from them because security control is not always guaranteed to have bombs in their security. So no matter what, you can potentially just win with it. Like at Nats, I was playing security control, and I actually lost to a Mirage player because my security just didn't have anything to stop him. So there are moments where Mirage can just go off and win the game against control decks. Especially like I noticed, I was wondering how this deck even countered like Deva's, four sovereigns, and then after looking at it, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. This deck can do a lot of things and do a lot of removal and do a lot of hits at the same time. So yeah, I can see why it's doing so well. Anyway, let's actually get into the deck profile. So you can see what I'm talking about. Honestly, for those that don't really know how this deck works, I finally figured it out for you, basically. But yeah, so first for the eggs, we're running a really weird ratio. I saw a lot of people were doing this where they would run three Wanyamons from BT11. This one basically, whenever you have a tamer on field, which you usually do when you start attacking, it gives you a draw one. But it's a once per turn effect, but that plus one or that plus one in your hand can potentially help you get the burst mode that you need to basically go off and just kill them for a game. But yeah, you run three of these, and then you run one of the Bukamon that was limited to one. So I was trying to figure out why they were running it like this instead of just running like four Wanyamons and one Buka. It's mainly so that you can see Buka faster because you honestly do not need five eggs in this deck. I noticed once you usually get to your second egg, you should already be going for game, or if not, you've already won and you just need one more hit and you've put them to like one memory so they can't do anything and you push out like a rookie to kill them. That's literally how the games go from what I've been seeing in my tests against like all my other decks. this is already plenty enough. And of course, this granting jamming, which will happen, especially if you're playing any deck that isn't Machine Dramon, basically, that can make a giant stack. So you're basically guaranteed to get jamming. And we do run the new Betamon rookie that already gives jamming anyway. So we basically have 5 ways to get jamming, or well, 6 ways if you count the hybrid. But yeah, we run the 3 Wanyamons and 1 Buka because we just want to see Buka as fast as possible and as often as possible. For the rookies, we run, I believe, only about like 3 different ones, but they're all really good. Like first, of course, we were running the new Betamon from BT15. This guy's awesome because he just you don't use it for his main effect. You never do. But the main thing you're using him for is his free inherit of jamming that doesn't require anything. It just gives jamming by default, so you have to run 4 of this. There are a lot of builds that only run 3, maybe less, but with how I only have 1 Buka now, I feel running 4 is very crucial. Then we run 4 of the Gaomon from EX4. This one looks like it's not fantastic because all it really does is on play draw 1. But at the same time, its inherent grants you an extra memory if you add a card to your opponent's hand. So the cool thing is that a lot of time I've gone for game where I have 3 memory and I go, okay, I can't really do another unsuspend if I swing again. So what I do is I would hard play one of these, give my opponent the 9th card in their hand, swing with burst, and then unsuspend and do it again, and basically go for game. This guy's actually really crucial for that. So you have to run 4 of him so that you can see him in your hand when you're about to go for lethal. Then we run 3 of the Gaomon Searcher from BT11. This one I run 3 of mainly because it can search, but at the same time it trashes the cards, so there's no way to basically get back the cards that you trash. There's literally no way or in this deck to basically recur stuff from trash, sadly. So you kind of have to just run 3 of these and just hope that you hit the card that you need. And yeah, that's basically all the rookies. We only run about 11, but we see these guys actually pretty consistently, which is kind of strange because the normal standard, as most people playing Digimon know already, is that we play 12, but surprisingly, some decks can get away with 10 to 11 or maybe even less. Like Machine Dramon, I know could technically run 8, but it doesn't anymore because it needs to see them. For level 4s, our level 4s are kind of basic, honestly. We run the 4 Gaogamons from EX4 because, A, when Digivolving, it bounces a level 3, so it kind of makes them have to replay their memory blocker or anything because you do run memory boosts and trainings. So what you can do is you can keep a rookie in hatching, push up, and then pop the training to basically evolve into this for free and bounce their guy, and then you can pop your memory boost. So you have to have this. And of course, his inherit is basically the same as the Gaomon here, where you gain a memory when your opponent adds a card to their hand. Then we run 4 of the Gaogamon from BT13 because it helps us play a Thomas if we don't have one. And all turns, it does grant a plus 1,000 if your opponent has 8 or more cards. Plus, it's another Gaogamon target, so you can search it with this one. So there's about 8 copies already of just Gaogamon. Then the last level 4 we run is 1 Lenamon because cool thing about this card is that you can evolve it for 0 thanks to the new trainings, and then you get to equip a level 3 and give it jamming by default. So you can go into this, then go into MirageGaogamon, and then evolve into the level 6 Mirage, and then just gain back the memory, and it still has jamming. So pretty cool. You got to run this at least at 1, that way you can do that effect. So pretty solid. That's all for level 4s. As I said, we don't really run that many. We only run about 9, but we do see these consistently enough, so the ratio I feel is already pretty solid. Then for level 5s, we're basically running the MirageGaogamon from BT11 because A, it gives us blocker, but also gives us plus 2,000 for every 4 cards in our opponent's hand and all turns. When an opponent's effect adds cards to your opponent's hand, unsuspend this Digimon. This effect is crucial on your turn and your opponent's turn because potentially you can actually unsuspend your guy, and if he already has blocker, you can potentially block a lethal swing, so pretty crucial. Then we run 1 of the MirageGaogamon that has been limited to 1 because it's a really, really good card because when Digivolving, you get to return your opponent's level 4 or lower to the hand, which will trigger effects of the Gaogamon. And then when attacking, if your opponent has 8 or more cards, you can unsuspend. It's only once per turn, but that unsuspend does help a lot. Then the last level 5 we run in the deck is the new Zudomon Ace. This guy's really cool. Like, I've had matches where I can't go for lethal, but they can go for lethal, but they don't have a rookie or they're not playing hybrid at that point. So I just drop this and I go, okay, I remove your guy and you can't really kill me next turn, which is really awesome. And you can actually evolve it for 1 cost with a training on top of a level 4, which can basically help you kind of activate their effects, gain memory, and then go into your level 6 for cheaper. So pretty solid. The overflow does suck, but it's worth it for his effects. So pretty solid. That's basically all for level 5s. For level 6, we only run like 2 specifically, and that's the MirageGaogamon from BT11 because when digivolving, you basically can bounce a level 5 or lower, and if you don't do that, then you basically just get to bounce a security to their hand, which does trigger's effect is that whenever your opponent adds a card to their hand, you get to gain a memory for every 4 cards. So if you do that in conjunction with even just one of these, you're already gaining like 2 to 3 memories. So potentially you can make this a 1 cost or even less than that, or like negative cost almost. So you got to run 4 of this because this is your main like aggro. This is the guy that basically helps you remove the board and start hurting your opponent basically. So you need to run 4. Then the last level 6 we run is one of the MirageGaogamon from BT13. This one is basically there for evade, but also to bounce a tamer, which can potentially actually hurt hybrid. You can actually bounce the tamer that they were planning to use to kill you next turn, and then you basically, in combination with this one, you give this guy blocker, and he has evade, so he can dodge deletion and he can block something. So it's pretty cool. And the best part is that when you bounce a tamer, you can just play a Thomas for free. So you could play the 3-cost Thomas to draw an extra card just in case, which is pretty cool. But yeah, we run 1 of this. Then for level 7s, we only run 1, and that is the MirageGaogamon Burst Mode. This guy is just cracked. Like, the fact that he can evolve for 0 is already broken if you have a Thomas. But the fact that when Digivolving, you just bounce any Digimon to hand and it gains memory at the same time, that's amazing. The worst part for your opponent, though, is that if they've overindulged on drawing a lot of cards from evolution and other effects, all those cards are going away because when he swings, he's just going to take every card and put you down to 8 cards randomly because you choose randomly from their hand. And then you get to untap and swing again. And if they still have 9 cards, or if you added a card through like the other Thomas's effect, you're doing it again, and you keep putting back a card onto the bottom of their deck. So you got to run 3 of this guy. This guy's really honestly broken. That's basically all the Digimon in the deck. The rest are options. For options, obviously, this being a blue deck and us wanting to see our pieces as fast as possible, we run 4 of the mental trainings to see as often as possible to search our deck, and of course make a level 4 or level 5 only 1 or 0 cost. Then we run 3 blue memory boosts because we do still like to gain more memory, and of course search the top 4. Sometimes you do hit into a Thomas or another option card, but at the same time you can potentially grab the missing piece. So you need as many searchers in this deck as possible. And I've noticed consensus wise, you do not go above 3. Usually 4 and 3 is already the perfect ratio, so you don't really need to tweak this as much. Then we run, of course, this being a blue deck, 1 Ice Wall, so we can slow them down if if we can't go for lethal. Then we run 1 Full Moon Meteor Impact because this actually can gain back memory and make it actually a cheaper cost option. But it just returns one of your opponent's Digimon to hand, so potentially you can actually force them to have to Evo again to basically kill you. But you can also just kind of wait until next turn to do it too, so pretty cool. Then we have 3 of the old Thomas from BT4. Shout out to my friend Steven for honestly giving me like half the, or trading me half of this deck, honestly, because if I didn't, I wouldn't really be able to play this deck or even have all the pieces to do it. This guy's really cool. On play, you get to draw 1, but on your turn, if your opponent has 8 or more cards, you can suspend it to unsuspend one of your Gaogamons. So with this and this, you can basically check for multiples. In total, I think I've checked for 6 checks in one time, and the standard most of the time for swinging is like 5 checks with this, with jamming, so it's really strong. Then the last card we run is, of course, 3 Thomases from the BT13 set. This one is your memory setter, and when attacking, you can give them an extra card, which does go in conjunction with the MirageGaogamon. So you can basically go swing with burst mode, activate this, and if it's your since it's your turn, you do have you can activate when attacking at any time. So basic or how you basically get to order them however you want. So you swing with this, you activate this, give them a card or give them their ninth card, and then this will trigger and check that they have 9 cards. So then you shuffle and then you untap and you keep going again. So pretty cool. And of course, being a memory setter is really important because we want to be able to evolve as fast as possible. And of course, being a Thomas, it's searchable by the Gaomon and blue trainings, so pretty solid. But aside from that, yeah, that's basically the deck. The deck is actually very straightforward. It's very reminiscent of old like the Garuru X and just basically any blue OTK deck from back in the day, like especially Imperial, like the old version of Imperial. This deck goes hard. It hits fast. It does lose to option cards, especially, but at the same time, not that many decks in the format are really using that many option cards. The only one that does is security control, but aside from that, you're basically free and clear to just swing as much as possible and bounce as much as their board as possible. So it's honestly very strong of a deck, and it potentially can just go off without warning. Like I've had it where I just go from like, oh, I just have like a level 4 in raising, and I just have like maybe these 2 trainings and a Thomas, and I just have all the pieces in my hand, and I just go, okay, I'm gonna check for like 6 checks real quick. Sorry about that, and I basically just win the game at that point. So this deck is very strong still. I'm really hoping they don't hit it, honestly, because this deck, we kind of need a consistent blue deck in the format that isn't like dual colored. This deck is mostly just pure blue. We don't really have that many pure color decks as much anymore. Most decks are mixed colors, like especially with like Imperial. It's like later on, and like Magna X, we have like multiple colors mixed together. While this deck is just primarily just blue, and it just goes off and just wins, and just it's basically doing the thing that blue does best, which is unsuspending, hitting with jamming, and bouncing stuff. And it does each one of those aspects perfectly. So I'm honestly just recommending you guys should try this deck out because it's really fun and it's really fast, especially if you value speed in the format, which it really does. So yeah, might as well honestly try it out because it's a really fun deck. As usual, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of this deck profile, and I'll see you guys next time.